Well, good evening and welcome to this live Telegraph Extra event, An Evening with Dame Joanna Lumley. Before I introduce my esteemed guests, I just want to thank you as our subscribers. This is exclusive to you, so you're very lucky to be here. We think we've got over 1,000 people watching this evening, which is fantastic. A bit of housekeeping to begin with, just so you know how to watch this on full screen, so you get the full experience. So, to get the video to full screen, you click on the square on the bottom right. I'd like you to submit questions as well, because we're going to give you an opportunity to ask Joanna anything that you like in the latter half of our chit chat. So you can do that by scrolling down and adding your comments to the Q&A box. Please keep your comments clean, as if I need to say that, although we'll probably do some dirty comments if you really, really want to. Now, obviously our guest needs no introduction at all, but let's just give you a very quick one. Where to begin? She's an actress, she's a presenter, she's an activist, she's an all-round legend, she's a BAFTA winner, and now she is a dame because she was named in the New Year's Honours 2022 as Dame Joanna Lumley. Do I need to call you Dame Joanna?
No, you don't.
Joanna it is then.
Thank you.
You so much for joining us in what's been a momentous year. I asked you earlier, but you haven't collected the gong yet, have you?
No, in the lovely letter they sent, which I've got to say was such a shock that I burst into tears. Well, I'd looked at it, an official envelope. It looked as though it had come from the driving licence place.
The DVLA.
Yeah, and anyway, I opened it up and it said DBE. And my husband wasn't at home and I just sat down and blubbed. I thought, this is a terrific shock. They must have got it wrong. It was in December.
Yes.
So it was very late and I thought, oh, maybe somebody's dropped out, or maybe, what should I... Anyway, I was terribly, terribly thrilled and touched. But they did say it'll be ages before you can go and be specially done. I don't think you'd have the sword. You have something put around your neck, maybe. Which is good. But they said the backlog is so colossal from COVID.
Oh, so it could be a year.
So I'm keeping fit, so at least I can walk there. So it might be the Zimmer, you know.
But you can call yourself Dame Joanna from the moment it's announced.
The moment.
And have you been? Did you keep your first envelope as being sent? Does it say Dame Joanna on the envelope from Buckingham Palace?
No.
So it's a secret until you open it, and then...
Yes, that's right, because I wasn't a dame then, because they do allow you to turn it down.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
that
you're allowed to turn
your
it
mind,
down.
Though, did it?
Well, it did. I asked my husband, I said, do you think I should turn it down? Does this make me somehow different? Will people think that I'm vain or proud or different? I didn't want people ever to think I was different. I had an OBE, which I adored, an Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I thought that was so undeserved and thrilling, and I loved that. So anyway, I said, do you think he said, don't be insane. So I was always bowing to his greater wishes. I wrote and said, thank you very much indeed.
That's lovely. Well, congratulations, and it's well deserved.
Thank you.
Let's have a look at your book, A Queen for All Seasons, because effectively you've written a book about a national treasure, and then I kind of thought, but you are a national treasure, and maybe you don't like that term because you might find it a bit ageist, but is that a fair comment?
No, it does. You usually have to have been around for quite a long time to become a national treasure. And I've been banging about for at least 50 years in people's lives and memories, at least.
And what prompted you then to decide, because I know you've written, this is your 8th book, you've written your memoirs, you've written other books. Why did you decide to do this for this year?
To tell you the truth, the publishers, Hodder and Stoughton, came to me and said, did you remember that it's going to be the Queen's Platinum Jubilee next year? And you were alive and you were 6 years old when you knew the Queen, King George VI had died and the Queen came to the throne, although she wasn't crowned. I went, what? It seemed so recently that we'd had diamond jubilees and golden jubilees. I can remember the silver jubilees. I couldn't believe that suddenly it had come to this, and that it was 70. And I said, what should we do? I'd love to do something that is entirely like giving her a bouquet of flowers, something that is not, I'm not a historian, I'm not a biographer. I wanted it to be just gorgeous things that if she ever looked at it, she'd think how lovely, how nice, how kind. So it wasn't about the royal family, it wasn't about any of the members of the royal family, although some of them creep in because they're referred to or whatever. It was just for her, because I do admire her enormously. So then, scratch, 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 scratch. And then it was just a matter of collecting all kinds of memories, anecdotes, diaries, written pieces, pieces from books, short poems, things that people recalled, pieces of parliamentary speeches, all kinds of things referring to the Queen. And it's made a lovely book. My job was to arrange it into kind of vague themes. So rather than go from right at the beginning, when you can imagine there was a lot about the accession and the coronation and so on, and then gradually as you get through and through and through and through, and life becomes more sort of humdrum, and then we come into the 20th century, and there's less stuff to write. I thought I would just do it thematically. So the Queen at home, the Queen on tour, the Queen with the stars, you know, the Queen's passions about dogs and horses.
Well, also it's very much kind of a homage to a woman as opposed to just a head of state, you know, and trying to get a little bit beneath her skin as to who she is.
But Camilla, that's exactly what I wanted to do, because she is, I mean, God save me for saying this, but we are all the same. All people are the same. They're either men roughly or women roughly, but that's all we are. But some people, either it's thrust upon them or they make themselves into something. Now, this is both for the Queen. She was not born to be Queen, she was born to be a princess, a royal princess. And then her uncle, Edward VIII, abdicated. And suddenly she was in line, the only two daughters of King George VI, and nobody else waiting to take the throne. So she was just, so it was dumped on her. But then something else happened. She made that vow, when she was only 21, that for her whole life, whether it be long or short, should be devoted to the service of her people and the Commonwealth. And she made herself into something absolutely extraordinary. Somebody who never failed, who never let people down, who was diligent in everything she did, immaculately turned out, having to push aside her natural passions, which were for the outdoor life, dogs, horses, non-pomposity, and simply step into this extraordinary, what the Queen Mother said, this great and lonely station.
Yes. And actually, we can reflect that she's had a pretty difficult 2 years. I mean, you go back to all of the history, you're even sharing your own memories of the coronation.
Yes.
And at the same time, she remains this remarkably robust figure, despite everything that's thrown at her and all of the problems that have engulfed the House of Windsor over the years.
I have a theory, so flimsy you could shoot it down in a second, but that people are, A, they're tribal, B, they like to have a head person, and C, I think they're familial. We like to think of people as being kind of in loco parentis, as parents of it, people who would do the right thing. We want to look up to people who rule us or run things. We want them to be rock solid, squeaky clean, whether it's headmaster or mistress or head teacher, as we now must call them, or heads of anything, heads of government. We want people to be unassailably good and true and honest. And so I think we look up to people, and I think the Queen has become a kind of, a sort of mothership.
Yes.
We want her to be the one when something catastrophic happens.
Yes.
She sends a message and we all read the message and we go, oh, how beautifully put that was. I hope they'll be comforted by getting that. Or when it's enormous congratulations, you think, oh, how proud they must be to hear that the Queen saw them skating, or whatever it is, you know.
Grandmother of the nation.
Yeah, grandmother now, but used to be young,
yes.
bride of the nation, then mother of the nation, then grandmother, and now great-grandmother.
And you've been lucky enough to meet her. What was that experience like? Well, there's been several, haven't they? But you write about one particular moment in the book.
Well, there have been several. I mean, the truth is the very, very first time you see the Queen, usually you're in a lineup or something. So luckily you're not expected to say or do anything, except remember to say, Your Majesty, but not first, because she must say something first.
Yes.
And not to start babbling on. Unfortunately, you do lose all sense of sense. You just become completely insane. I didn't write about this in the book, but I was invited to a private lunch at Buckingham Palace, where the Queen invites maybe 6 or 8 members of the public, all different walks of life. I remember the time I went, we had the new Chief Rabbi, Jonathan Sacks, at the time. We had a banker, we had a woman head of Scottish police or something. Quite a random section. But it's a small gathering, and it's in a room not very much bigger than this. Beautifully decorated, big windows looking out on Buckingham Palace garden. And it's their own sitting room. It's their own place of lovely things. And then suddenly, little susurration of small little feet, little crick-crack of little corgis coming in. Yes. Then in comes the Queen. And she is so astonishingly familiar. And whenever you see somebody in 3D rather than just photographs, you're always taken aback. And you get a bit sort of gasping, and then all sense leaves you. And so the Queen came up and talked to people and came round to me, and I was standing with the Scottish policewoman. And the Queen said very kindly, said, what are you sort of up to nowadays? And I said, I'm very keen on decriminalising drugs. Why? Why did I say that? Well, I mean, it was something that had occurred to me, but I was not mad keen about it. Why did I suddenly think that? And the Queen looked at me so kindly and went, oh, interesting, do tell me. And I said, well, you know, if you put cocaine between cough mixture and corn plasters, and you had to make people, and she said, I see. I dug myself deeper and deeper.
That's like the rabbit in headlights phenomenon that is, I think, familiar to anybody that's ever met her. Also, she's disarmingly different to how she appears on stamps and money, because she's quite sparkly and smiley and not at all like this austere person that you imagine.
And a lot of the people, the contributors to my book, several of them, said what a beautiful skin she has.
Yes.
And how dazzling her cornflower blue eyes were. How entranced, people became entranced. A lot of this is to do with fame, because I know I've met very famous people, and you do stare at them a bit.
Yes. Well, even you, but you're really famous.
All I do is stare at famous people, or even newsreaders. That's unkind, newsreaders. I didn't mean that you're not famous. You are. You're very famous. But I greet them. Sometimes I kiss them. I think I must know them. I've kissed people. Mm.
But on that subject, because people are always intrigued, when you've got your level of fame, I mean, you're just so instantly recognisable. How is it to live with that? I think you seem to enjoy it. You don't mind people asking for selfies and autographs and all.
Well, look, Camilla, this is the truth. When it started, when it was all those years ago in the 1970s, mid-70s, when I did Purdy in the New Avengers, and I realised then my life would never be the same, because I would be known, I would be recognised. And if it's not too horrible to say, it's rather like losing a limb, because you go, oh, I'll be lame for the rest of my life. You go, no you won't, you'll manage this. You'll put in a prosthetic limb and you'll walk. And I thought, if this is going to happen to me for the rest of my life, you've got to make it something you love. Otherwise you're going to have a hateful, hateful time.
Yes.
So just go, how absolutely lovely. Actually, that's my kind of theory about life. Start saying, how absolutely lovely about practically everything.
You can't always feel like that, though. Sometimes you must be in a terrible mood and somebody's coming up to you and
they make you feel happy, because most people don't come up and say horrid things. They mostly say nice things. They mostly say really sweet things, and the things they love are obviously ab fab and things like that, but they love the travel programs. They feel like friends. They feel I am a friend.
Yes.
And that I love very much. So they come up.
So you don't find it over familiar at times?
Nice.
You quite like
it's easier on my own. It's less easy when I'm with a group of people or with my husband or family and things, and people can carve their way through because you're the only one they recognise or want a selfie with. And that can become... But you must never be rude. There's no point in being rude ever.
When you were cast as Purdy, did you appreciate that it would catapult you to such a level of fame?
No, you're so anxious about paying the gas bill or something, and I was so poor at the time. And after all, they'd seen something like 270 women before they saw me. And they said, oh, I'm not sure you're going to be right. And I did something I've never done before, or since, you'll be pleased to hear, is that I put myself against the door like that and I said, I shan't leave until you screen test me. And they went, God, this is a bit over the top. All right, we'll screen test her. Anyway, they very kindly did, and I was right for the part. And I said, I've got to cut my hair off. It's got to be short hair.
So that was your idea?
Oh, yes. And they said, no, no, you can't have heroines with short hair. I thought, bad luck, Joan of Arc. But anyway, I thought, well, I said, I will cut it. They said, well, you've got to have a wig prepared because we like people with nice long hair. So I said, OK, but I'll cut the hair. And I went to John Frieda, who was only a baby hairdresser, and said, can you cut my hair? I know you do these nice shortcuts, can you do it? So he said, he's very shy. It was before he was married to Lulu. And he was very shy, very beautiful boy. And then there was another beautiful boy standing beside him, holding Kirby grips with red hair, boy with red hair. That was Nicky Clark.
Oh, my goodness.
So these two giants were the people who made the Purdy cut. And luckily the producers liked it.
But also then that kind of propels you to sex symbol status. I mean, does a sex symbol ever feel like a sex symbol?
And she wasn't a sex symbol. It was the French who put the money in. The British didn't want any more New Avengers or Avengers of any kind at all. The French said, no, we love this show. We think this show is very good indeed. We shall have it back. We loved Linda Thorson. She had great big embonpoint. She was wonderful to look at. And then I was quite thin at the time. This mangy little person arrived with a flat chest and short hair, and they went, Buff, this is terrible. Anyway, they were stuck with it. You asked a question, I forgot the answer.
No, I'm asking because regardless of whether it was created by Purdy or the Bond girl role, okay, like 2 lines in... Do you remember those 2 lines in On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
I know what he's allergic to. And then they gave me another one, which was, oh goody, eggnog, just like we have at Christmas. And I said, but we don't have eggnog. Sorry, I'm the English girl. We don't have eggnog at Christmas. They said, this is for an American audience. You have eggnog at Christmas.
But
I don't remember any other lines.
No,
I've done.
But if you're a Bond girl,
wild and coward, I didn't remember a single line.
But when you're a Bond girl, you kind of become a sex symbol, and I've always wondered whether people who are sex symbols realise it.
No, but well, it's your. I'd been a model, so I was a pretty girl. Nobody knew if I could do accents or anything. What I was usually I was usually somebody's girlfriend, pretty, and I'd wear nice clothes and stand prettily or lean or look lovely or just go, I'm here. You know, you do that sort of stuff because that's what you were paid to do, and you're trying to pay the rent. People don't understand that acting is, much as you love it, it's a job, and you've got to earn money. You must have done stuff in the past which is kind of not quite hack. You're such a good writer, but that's stuff that you kind of go.
Well,
you
yeah,
kind
I mean,
of go,
I worked
oh
on a
well, I'll
local
do
paper
this.
and covered fates.
Of course you do. You do that. You do the best you can.
Yes,
but that's all it is.
But it wasn't easy initially, was it?
No.
Because you did a recent interview with my colleague Bryony Gordon.
Yeah.
Where you said you had a dreadful time when you had to pull yourself out of that theatrical production. You were a single mother to Jamie, your son, and you said you basically had a breakdown. Is that right?
I had a burnout, complete burnout. I was being paid very little money. I was working terribly hard. I was trying to look after Jamie because the au pair girl I'd got suddenly jumped ship. So this was a very thing. And my cousin was very, very ill and nearly dying. And I was worried sick about her. And I couldn't make it all. I couldn't do my life. And I was doing this play 8 shows a week, and it was a nightmare, and suddenly something snapped. And I think it was rather like people who get shell-shocked. They simply walk away. It's not cowardice. Something in your head says, well, that's the end of that, and you don't have to do that, so you walk away. You're not running from the guns. I wasn't doing anything like that. I had no interest in it. It was all over for me. That was it. I sat down on the floor of my bedroom on a Saturday morning, 2 shows ahead of me. I thought, well, that's that, so I've stopped that. And I think I better go down to see my parents. And when I rang them, they went, what are you doing? You've got 2 shows. And I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And then I went, whew. So I went down, 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 and down, down, down for about 6 months. And I'd used up every bit. I'd taken stuff out of my socks. Do you know what I mean? I'd used everything. And I couldn't do it because you can't.
But at the time, you probably thought that was the end of the world. I mean, it was a brave move to have pulled out of that play.
No, it wasn't. No, it was not a brave move. I didn't do it voluntarily.
You were just forced to.
Well, no, I just snapped. You just snap like
Yes.
that. You don't pull out of anything. I just got on a train and went away. I didn't pull out of anything. They said, you have to go back. And I said, well, no, I can't. I can't do anything. I then couldn't go into shops. I couldn't cross the road. I couldn't do anything. I'd stopped it. The whole thing had stopped. It just went, stop, like that. Stop. You've stopped now. There you are. You've stopped.
And did you ever have any episodes subsequently to that? Or?
No, because I can recognise them.
Yes.
Being in that scary place, I thought, well, I'll never come back here again because the climb up and out of it is so appalling. Trying to teach myself how to go into a shop and not have a panic attack. I mean, teaching myself how to breathe in and breathe out when you can't breathe, you know, those sorts of things. You just go, just breathe in, breathe out. This is how you stay alive. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. And when your mind is going, blah, 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 and you just go, lovely, lovely glass, I'm holding a glass. I'm looking at the glass, I'm counting the bubbles, I'm holding a glass. Just training yourself not to spiral out and go insane. But then I thought, well, I'm going to teach myself how to get back from these positions, but I'll learn when they seem to approach.
You used to talk yourself. You didn't have therapy for
No,
this?
no, I didn't. Well, I don't think you did in those days.
No.
You didn't do it. Not that you were snooty about it. A, wasn't available. B, you didn't do it. C, I'm pleased that I've got it now. I've tucked it into myself. I can recognise any kind of down. We all go up and down. We've all got moods and sadnesses. It's not depression. And it wasn't depression. It was a burnout.
Yes.
And I've never had it since because I've taught myself to see when the petrol's being poured on the fire.
Is there a moment when, post-Purdy or whenever it might have been, where you kind of think, oh, I've made it? Or
no,
is the insecurity of acting always with you?
No, and not now. That's why you get the Dame and you go, oh my God, have they gone mad?
Yeah.
I haven't even started. And so people ask, even grand people like Maggie Smith and Judi Dench and Eileen Atkins and Helen Mirren, they go, and Helen Mirren, I just saw a piece about you go, you never think you're good enough. You always think, have I got away with it? Was that okay? Was any part of that intelligible to anybody? You'd never think, A few people do.
Yes.
Abba.
Yes.
No, they don't exist. They can't continue.
So you're saying that you continue with imposter syndrome even with a career as successful as yours been?
It's not so much imposter because you're there and you think, well, of course they've used me for this. Why not? I mean, I'm frightfully old and I played Patsy, so I get lots of bitchy, raddled old twats. Do you know what I mean? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry. Telegraph readers, I didn't say that.
Don't you worry at
That
all.
was awful language.
You said twits, didn't you? I think you did. But talking about Patsy then, well, let's talk about that moment, because You're in Shirley Valentine, I think it's about 1989.
That was an afternoon's work.
Was it?
Yeah.
God,
Bring
it
your
seemed
own
like more
clothes.
than that.
No, showbiz is very odd.
Yes.
And people say to me, what was it like, Tom Conti and Pauline Collins? I go, yeah, it was great. I always pretend I've met all these people. I met Pauline, but Tom was out in Greece or something. I know him, but I hadn't worked with him. I also did this when I did the voice of a thing called Corpse Bride with Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, and people say, oh, what was it like working with them? As if we all sit in a studio dubbing our voices. And I went, oh, they're great, so lovely.
Having said that,
never met them
you
at all.
did actually snog Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah,
What's that like? What was that like?
It was fantastic. No, he was, look, we ate so much peppermint because we knew we were going to have to do a kissy-kissy. But he was a completely darling man. I was so afraid that he might be a bit Hollywood bratish. He was so brilliant. I've admired him since he was a little boy. I think he's a genius actor.
Agreed.
Genius. And handicapped, i.e. he only got an Oscar when he wore a heavy beard and nearly died in the woods being eaten by a bear or something.
Yes.
And then Hollywood finally gave him an Oscar. But his very first performance should have had an Oscar.
Gilbert Grape.
Sensational.
Yes.
I mean, he was an outstanding actor. And I thought anybody that good must be a bit of a monster. Opposite. Darling, sweet.
Was it
clever.
a proper snog with tongues?
No, of course not.
No,
I was
sorry.
his aunt. You're ill, Camilla.
Sorry, I've forgotten the film. The stills of it look pretty intimate.
No, they don't. We're sitting on a bench and
Right,
we do a
it's
little...
just a kiss on the lips.
A kiss. He kisses me on the lips because he's A, taken 4,000 quaaludes, and B, he's trying to persuade me, his wife's aunt, to take suitcases of money to Switzerland.
But then, when you mention Corpse Bride and this film, is there much differentiation between the likes of Tim Burton or Martin Scorsese?
Well, Tim didn't turn up to the directing of that at all.
Oh, wow.
No. I did meet him, and he'd a fabulous creature of his own making with black clothes and wild black hair, and kind of wandered in, didn't seem to know what was going on. It was incredibly sweet. And went away again. They said, that was Tim. That's great. Now what you'll do, Joanne. And so I dubbed my little bit. It's quite technical, all this.
Yes.
It's not kind of schmoozing.
No.
But Martin Scorsese, just every gold star I've got is pinned to that man's chest. We shot the bit which is apparently me in London, where Leo's flown over to see me. Jordan Belfort has flown over to see the aunt. Scorsese doesn't fly, so he didn't want to do that. So we made a park in Brooklyn look like London. And they got a bobby on a bicycle, 2x2 kind of thing, and somebody pushing. I seem to remember a Scotty dog in a little checked coat, somebody walking along. So it looked a bit Londony.
Perfect.
Sweet, huh?
Let's go back to Patsy.
Okay.
Because what I was going to say is you kind of do Shirley Valentine, and I don't know, to be fair, you never haven't worked. You've always been really busy.
Since the New Avengers.
Yes,
Sapphire
exactly.
and Steel, after that.
But there was almost like a brief hiatus, and then Patsy came along. Just tell us how Patsy came along and how you landed that role, because it was transformative for your career, really, don't you think?
Oh, completely. Yeah. But I'd been doing stage plays, which people always forget,
Yes.
And I was in a stage play directed by Harold Pinter, which is called Vanilla, and I was playing a quite strange, funny woman. I'd cut my hair off that short and dyed it black. And she was quite amusing. It was a flop. The whole show was a flop. We had massive stars in it. And it failed after about 3 or 4 weeks. But Ruby Wax came to see it. She loved it. She came straight back and said, she said you should work French and Saunders, but you've got to work with me first. So I did 3 lovely programmes with Ruby about a kind of parallel Joanna Lumley who was going insane and had no career, which lots of people thought was true. Yes. So that's why the press...
Was that your first meeting? Did you know these ladies before?
No. But Ruby doesn't, she just comes to your stage door and just walks in.
Right.
I just love her with all my heart, completely, and did from that second. I always admired her. Anyway, so I worked with her on that. And then I got sent a script, which I thought was the best thing I'd ever read. It was so funny. I thought, they can't ever make this. This is so funny. And it was Jennifer Saunders' first episode of Absolutely Fabulous. None of the characters were described. Patsy was just a person sitting in a taxi, saying things. And I looked at it, and I did a read-through with Jennifer, who I'd never met, who was fairly sort of monosyllabic, and I thought, oh God, she hates this. She's not enjoying it. And I didn't know what to be, and I was just saying, we'll turn left, we'll go to Harvey Nicks, in this kind of a person, because I didn't know who the person was. It didn't say.
Yes. So how did Patsy become Patsy then?
Well, I had to try to make Jennifer laugh, because she didn't seem to be enjoying anything very much. So I just I began to, and I thought, I know, Patsy will always wear her hair up. I just want to do that. She will always wear red lipstick. She will always be immaculate. I just began to get her. And I thought she's got like this because she's had something done to her bottom. She's probably had all her insides taken out through her bottom or something. There's something she's been hammering it for quite a long time. And once I'd got that sort of feeling of her, and then I thought she's cross. I remember thinking of Richard E. Grant in Withnail and I, who was always cross, and I thought, oh, that's very funny. It's quite funny when people are always cross. So Patsy's always pretty sullen. She didn't like to laugh, but when she did, she used Elvis's laugh. Just a lip. I loved Patsy.
Oh, does she feel like she's like a sister or something? What
No,
does she feel like?
She's repellent. No, but we get them out of the boxes every now and then. Every time I'm with Jennifer, every time we're together, we just start laughing and laughing and laughing. And we always imagine what would happen if it was Patsy and Adina. We always do, even though they've gone. And I don't think they'll come back because she won't write anymore.
No.
Look, I cut my fringe and it seems to be getting longer as I talk to you.
Have you cut it yourself?
Yeah, I did it. I did it just before I came to see. No, well, it was parted before, and I looked so tragic. And I thought, oh, Camilla will want a bit of a jauntier. Actually, the Telegraph readers will want something a bit jaunty. But now it seems to be settling it onto my eyes. I'm sorry.
But can I ask something? You are quite self-sufficient. You do your own hair, you're cutting your own fringe, you do your own makeup. Are you low maintenance?
I am low maintenance, but also it's quite useful for whenever I'm away on long trips. Secondly, I don't really have very much time to go and get your hair done. Look, all the supermarkets have got things going, and pictures of gorgeous women with lovely flowing golden hair, and you go, I'll have some of that. Put that on, that'll make the hair yellow. You've got sharp scissors, you buy them in Boots the chemists, and you can cut your hair. It's not rocket science. Okay, it's not very nicely cut, but it's cut.
It looks great, if I can say that. Actually, on the topic of kind of self-care, you look at Patsy and she's probably like one of the most narcissistic characters in recent memory, and I wondered whether you had an opinion on today's slightly self-absorbed sort of selfie generation.
Oh, well, look, you know, selfie's funny and people seem to do it all the time. It's much worse than that. People have now got used to looking in and just trying to find themselves and just look in. This way lies, I promise you, lies unhappiness. I promise you. You've got to look out. The world is packed with glories. And it's books and paintings, but more than that, it's nature and leaves, it's people and things, it's stuff. Everything you see is gorgeous. So don't keep on looking at. I've known myself all my life. I'm about as shallow as a puddle. There's nothing more to look at. You go, yeah, well, I've seen that. So there's no need for me to look inside. There's nobody there anyway, because all my eyes are on stalks looking outwards. And that's why I'm as happy as anything. The more you look into yourself, the unhappier you will be. Telegraph readers, you know that anyway, but I promise you, and we've got to pass it on to our young, stop looking inwards.
I don't think they're getting the message though, Joanna, are they? I mean...
Yes, they will. They're going to get bored with all this selfie business.
Do you think?
Yeah.
And I was also going to ask you, as a former alumni of Lucy Clayton, you're obviously renowned, I think, for kind of minding your P's and Q's, bar the odd swear bomb in videos. Yeah. But do you think that we're as well-mannered as we used to be?
No, we're not even as well mannered as the Americans. We're terribly polite. Always say please and thank you and sir and things like this are terrifically polite. We've become a little bit yobbish, but I think we always were. What is it? Somebody said the British are drunken yobs with the odd flash of genius.
Well, I was going to quote you from an interview you gave to Parkinson, circa 2007, which I think was around kind of ladette culture. Yeah. And you say, I have to say, I adore our young ones, and I think we have got some of the prettiest and loveliest girls in the world. But I think sometimes their behaviour gets a bit bad, and I think girls let themselves down. They are so pretty and lovely, but they should behave better. I think then they would be more successful. Do you agree with that still?
No, I don't know. Successful at what? I don't know. I don't know what she was rambling on about. She was just probably trying to fill up space. But I just think everybody should try to be nice. I really do. It sounds so old-fashioned, but try to be civil to people. Try to be kind. Kindness is everything. Kindness is my religion. Nature and kindness is my religion. And that seems to be good. If you're kind, even to quite frightening people or quite horrible people, it has a good result. It has a good result. If it's genuine kindness. And of course the travels that I do all around the world to countries where I have no way of being able to speak their language or understand all their customs, whatever, they can tell if you come with affection and admiration and courtesy and respect. They can sense that, and then people are warm and kind back again. But if you're dismissive or sulky or sullen or looking inwards, it doesn't really work. So force yourself to be nice. Now, this doesn't mean to say you're going to turn into a goody-goody or a Pollyanna or whatever it is immediately overnight. But it does help a bit. We've all got to keep on trying. It's like marriages, it's like friendships, it's like jobs you do, it's like cooking yet again, finding supper for the table. You must put energy and kindness and thought into it. Don't expect it to come and just be that. You've got to discipline yourself into doing it. I'm quite disciplined.
Are you?
Yeah.
What would be like an average routine? Are you somebody that tries to fill your days? I mean, because your career is so varied, really, you know, from books to acting to the travelling. Yeah. So are you kind of somebody who never has a dull moment and doesn't like to rest on her laurels?
Oh, it sounds like Hyacinth Bouquet, doesn't it?
Well, I just mean, are you restless if you haven't got much to do?
No, I just lie in a bed and read a book. But I do have a lot to do, and sometimes it's rather like doing prep at school. You go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. I've got 5 hours. I've got 3 hours to do. Look, I've got half an hour to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And I've got to write 1,000 words, because I write occasionally, like you write lots, but when it comes, I go, oh, I can do that tomorrow. I'll get up at 4. You know, you do all this sort of rubbish. So, but I do like to do things and to get things done. And sometimes that's another part of when you're feeling very down or you can feel things. Make a list, even if it's things like tidy the tabletop. Put it on a list and tick it off. A small sense of achievement bolsters you, makes you feel stronger.
Do you know what? You should be doing another book, like Lumley's Rules of Life.
Oh, can you imagine?
Life with Lumley.
Can you imagine me then on a book tour and people are just going, oh no, I can't bear it. Yes, use again.
Let's talk about some of your activism as well, because you're obviously closely associated with the Gurkha campaign. Yeah. I remember first interviewing you for Born Free, I told you earlier. I won't forget it because you kissed our photographer on the lips, which was the greatest day of his life, just to say. He still talks about it today. So there's Born Free, there's like lifelong vegetarianism. You've supported the Green Party in the past. Your politics are a bit difficult to pin down.
Well, I didn't really have any, that's why. I like independence. I thought we ought to have a Green MP in Parliament, just one at least. Yes. I thought it was disgraceful that our country lagged so far behind Germany, for instance. And I think Caroline Lucas, who I knew anyway from animal-friendly things, because she's very green herself, as you know.
Yes.
And so I sent her £1,000 when she was canvassing to help her get into Parliament, which she did.
I hope she said thank you.
Of course she did. She's immaculate.
Yes, no, she's a
terrific woman. She's terrific. But all the parties have got good ideas. I've got some of very few communist ideas and a few slightly right of Genghis Khan, you know, so I don't know what to say. You know, I think it's very varied.
You're a political every woman.
Yes.
But the activism, for instance, for the Gurkhas.
I mean, that's just what's right. You've got to do what's right. You've got to be on the side of right. It doesn't matter what other people think. If you know something in your heart to be very wrong, you must stand up and do something about it. That's why, for instance, compassion in world farming and the treatment of refugees and things like this is catastrophic. You can't just sit by and say, well, I like eating my bacon, so I don't really care what happens to the pigs. You know, I like this, so I don't really care. I'll just shut my eyes to that. I think we overfish the oceans, so I gave up eating fish completely. But lots of people go, oh, I wouldn't do without. And you kind of go, well, just be aware that every action has a reaction. And if we send out trawlers so we can get cheap fish, and they kill half the fish that come up and throw them back dead into the waters, which contaminate the waters and also destroy the fish stock. And if they scrape the seabeds trying to grab things up and ruin the seabeds, if we do all these things, don't you understand that something's going to go badly wrong? And it all sounds a bit woo to say this, but I think we're reaping the horrors that we've sown. Our indifference to this natural world is so catastrophic that now look what's happening. The world is burning, flooding, exploding. And we all go, oh my God, what about the flood defences? And you go, we've done this. We've made prairies so that all the sand blows off. We've cut down all the trees. We've polluted the rivers, killed the fish. I mean, it sounds horrible, but David Attenborough, he doesn't moan. He tries to lure you out of your stupidity and try to show you what the glories of the world are. And half the world just couldn't give a damn. If it wants a plastic bottle of water, it'll have it. Chuck it in the bush. Having said that, your grandchildren's generation are much more conscious of these issues than even mine was and yours was. I know. Which is positive, just to be a bit more hopeful. Oh, no, I am hopeful because I know that the young will do it and I know that we have it in our power to do it. But we mustn't, you know, here we are dealing with a pandemic which affects people, but people are a pandemic.
Are you happy that these restrictions have been lifted? Are you a kind of ardent mask wearer? Are you just, I can't wait to get rid of any of these measures?
I can't wait, because I think we're inoculated now enough. And if you are anxious, for goodness sake, take and wear a mask. If I remember all those years ago when Japanese used to visit our country, they'd wear masks. We go, why are they wearing masks? Maybe it was for the pollution of the city, we didn't know. But we'd look at them and go, how strange, they're wearing masks. People who feel happier to wear a mask, wear it. People who are anxious of going into a crowded place, don't go to that crowded place. Otherwise, I want to see theatres crammed with people, because we can all, it seems, resist this new variant. And until, if a very much worse one comes along, we'll deal with that when it does.
Yes.
But this one is mild, and we must accommodate it and deal with it and have it like a cold, or if it's flu, then stay in bed. And if it's a cold, just blow your nose and be civil, you know. But I want theatres crammed.
Well, let's talk about your love of the arts, because you're also going to mention about the Grange Park Opera.
Oh, I adore it.
Tell us about what it is for the uninitiated, because, by the way, subscribers, you're going to get early dibs on tickets to this year's performances, and you're going to get them before anybody else. So I think you've got up to March the 8th to book in with the Grange Park Opera.
But hurry, as they say, hurry while stocks last. I mean, really do, hurry, hurry. This is, Grange Park Opera is the most extraordinary thing. It was started by a woman who's extraordinary in herself, Was Fikani, the only person, I think, in the world who's ever built 2 opera houses. Anyway, the first opera house, which was down in Grange Park down in Hampshire, the lease ran out of that, and we were hunting for a new home. At exactly that time, this fairy story happened, where Bamber Gascoigne, already a hero, I mean, literally my heart, I'm already starting to stammer thinking of him, I love him so much, who's now recently died, but has left behind a legacy. He was suddenly inherited at the age of, I think, about 81, from an aunt who happened to be a duchess, so this is all part of the fairy story, a vast and fabulous but pretty crumbling house just in Surrey, just off the M25, the other side. Beautiful place, West Horsley Park. And he and Christina, I mean, I love them both so much I can hardly speak without just literally throwing my arms around them. Had this huge place where we went along and said, do you think it might be possible to build an opera house? And I'm saying we because I'm on the board of Grange Park Opera, to build a little opera house, pretty much like La Scala in Milan, a little bit smaller, in the grounds. Now, anybody sensible or anybody dull or anybody boring would have gone, well, I don't know. So Bamba and Christina went, what a wonderful idea.
Embraced it.
What a wonderful idea. So through this magical place, and it's everything that Rudyard Kipling would have written about, to be at West Horsley Park in the summer is already a dream. Even if there was no opera there, just to be allowed to walk in the gardens would be a dream. Because it's got ancient parterres and gardens, it's got crinkle-crankle walls which are built like this, so that the trees planted there would ripen before the trees that were planted there would ripen, so peach trees and things which were espaliered along the walls. Old, ancient woods and spinach, just magic, a magic place. And suddenly, in 11 months, Was Fikani raised £10 million and in 11 months built an opera house. So the whole thing is fantastic. Now, into this comes just, you know, the heavyweights of the world, Bryn Terfel, Simon Keenley's side, Joseph Calleja, for instance, are singing there this year.
Amazing.
Book now to avoid disappointment, because it is just, and you can take a picnic, you can dress how you want, all this, oh, you've got to do this, you don't have to do a thing.
Yes.
Everybody wants to dress up and everybody wants to have a picnic, but I'm married to a conductor.
Yes.
Simper slightly, because he's conducting, he always conducts for Grange Park Opera, and he's conducting a beautiful opera this year called La Gioconda. But quite often Stephen, because he's conducting it, doesn't want to have a huge sit-down thing. So sometimes I just take him sandwiches. So if you want, you can just take sandwiches. And you can just sit on a wall and eat some sandwiches, which is what we do. Or sometimes we have spreads and people put out groaning things and trays and trestles and bottles of wine and champagne. And there's champagne tents and little gazebos, little Indian tents around. And you go, oh, just to be here is the very business. And then you've got the operas as well. We've got Verdi, we've got Otello.
Yes, you've got all of it.
We've got the Flying Dutchman this year.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm imagining like the Lumley household, the Barlow household, kind of like alive with music. Is there music on the whole time? I bet you don't get to listen to what you want to if you're married to a conductor.
No, but conductors have this quite irritating thing of reading in full scores in silence.
What?
Because they can read, they can hear it in their heads.
Oh.
And so they've got the whole thing, all the instruments and all the singers like that, and this huge thing like this, and they just go, whoo, And occasionally Saunders goes, and I'm not allowed to speak or talk or play music. But anyway, luckily, we've got such a huge house that we've got a music room at the end of the garden, so he can be music down there, and I can be up here.
Because I want to quote another quote back at you. You've been married since 1986, and I found this intriguing.
Yeah.
That you said that you'd commented in the past that you live independent lives, and when you are away from each other for work, you do not ring each other. It's the secret to a successful marriage. Some independence. Is that right?
I think so. Well, also when you're far, far away, quite often the time is different. And there's nothing more irritating than being rung up at breakfast by somebody going, "Hi, how are you?" Like, "Are you okay?" You don't want that, somebody mild. And the other thing is that when you are like that yourself, you don't want to try to sound sober from across the world. I'm making it sound as if one drinks a lot on these trips.
Do you drink a lot?
A great deal. No, sometimes. Anyway, you're always out of kilter. And also, phones are rather bad. Much nicer to get a lovely little email. It's like a love letter.
Lovely.
And it pings up and you can read it and reread it. And sometimes you can attach a photograph you've taken.
Have you ever been as drunk as Patsy?
No, I can't stand being drunk. I like drinking, but I've got the constitution of an ox. I can drink people under the table.
How many gins would you have before you start making no sense at all?
I've never not made any sense at all.
Is gin
2 or 3 bottles? No, I don't know. I don't drink a lot because I don't like...
What's your tipple, though? What's your favourite tipple?
I love gin and tonic, but I love champagne, naturally. Anybody sensible likes a glass of champagne.
Course.
Because that can't even be considered a drink.
Don't you have to start gargling honey and lemon and things to preserve your voice, this famous voice?
No, I smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, that's really surprised me about
very good.
you.
Quite a lot of singers do, a lot of dancers do, a lot of actors do.
Doesn't your agent sort of start...
Leo.
Oh, is Leo a smoker?
Leo. He was taught to smoke by, I think, Robert De Niro when he was very small for a part. And he then couldn't stop and became addicted. So when I was working with him, he'd stopped smoking, but he kept in his pocket a vape.
Oh.
And he would vape about 50 puffs between everything. So he was just walking about in a cloud of smoke. And I smoked my little cigarettes like that. And then we both ate peppermints.
Have you never considered vaping?
No.
No.
I like smoking.
Fair enough.
I don't smoke an awful lot or drink an awful lot, but I like talking about these things.
Yes, well, I'm glad you have. Now,
I'm not a very good cook.
I'm looking at the clock here and I feel like we must bring in the punters.
Oh, punters.
Punters want to ask you lots of great questions. Oh. So can I fire some at you? We'll try and be quite rapid because there's lots of...
No, it'll be quicker. Yeah.
20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy French. If you could be queen for a day, what would you do?
Oh, Amy, I would have an edict which would go through at once because I'd be queen, which would be to stop factory farming.
Very good too. That's not actually that surprising. That's actually a very noble aim, isn't it?
It would be quite exciting, wouldn't it?
How did Joanna come to love opera?
Well, I loved classical music.
And that's from, sorry, oh, it's anonymous. Put your names on these, don't be shy.
Oh no, I like anonymous. I probably sent it in myself. No, the truth is that I always listened to classical music. I was brought up on classical music. I was listening to Mozart before my husband was born. But when I married Stephen, and I didn't know much about opera, opera came into my life because he does principally operas. He does everything. He plays piano and composes, but he conducts opera. And he taught me so much about it, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. And then a lot of people I admired a lot, like Jonathan Miller and people like this, Barry Humphries. Giants told me they loved opera, and you think this is, and people say it is kind of, when it's good, it's as good as can be as a human experience.
Are you musical? Do you play any instruments?
No, I used to play the piano by ear, but then you married Stephen, you don't.
Yes. No, you can't. No. What do you consider your greatest achievement in life so far? Asks Pam. Such a hard question.
Pam, nothing. You never go, ooh, that's good, I've done that. You never do that. The nearest I get to this, Pam, is just occasionally reading something I've written 10, 12 years ago. Okay, well, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Not huge and I'm proud, none of that. But just, that wasn't too bad.
But is there a play, TV show or film that you particularly have just the fondest memories of?
No, Ab Fab and Patsy was one of the fondest memories, mainly because we were so disgusting and so funny. And my favourite bit was when Patsy and Eddie were very, very old and Patsy had lost her mind. and they'd been round to see Safi, and they were drooling. We had prosthetic makeup. It took 4 hours to put on. So we had bald caps under our faces. We had jowls and things like this. We had little Dowager's humps and little saggy titties hanging down like this, and scraggy little arms. And Patsy was clawing through the garden. She'd lost her marbles, so instead of being Patsy, who was sullen, she loved everything. So she was looking at things like this. She sniffed a flower and a bee went up her nose and straight down her throat, because she's got nothing inside her head, because she snorted all away with stuff. And she spat it out, and then she coughed and her pants fell off. Well, that's for me paradise.
Is there anything you've worked on that you absolutely hated, just from beginning to end?
Yes, some things that you mustn't ever allow yourself to hate things steadfastly, because you've got to redeem yourself. You've got to be kind and nice and flourish and fly above it, and also not let it drag you down. But there are sometimes there's the odd person, I would never tell you who it is. And luckily I erase bad people from my mind. But they've been the odd absolute beasts to work with.
Oh, please tell us.
No.
What, are any of them dead, and then we can't defame them?
Most of them have been died by these very hands. I've killed them. No, most of them are dead or gone, or I can't remember who they are. But you just go, I'm hating every day I have to come in because I've got to see you again. I know there will be people out there who have this. You've got to work your way around it, manage it somehow, but mark them down and don't go there again.
Did you have to deal with lots of lecherous men as a model or as an actress?
Yes.
Yes. Casting couch. What? Any
casting
proper
couch.
Moments of
No, because you're quite
assault?
smart in those days. If somebody began doing that, give their hand a slap, give them a push, say no, stand up for yourself, don't let it happen. Now, it seems to be much worse now. I don't know why. I seem to feel that people are more vulnerable now. But I think we were quite a feisty lot, you know, give somebody a slap.
Angela asks, how do you keep fit?
Angela. I don't know. I run about. Our house is tall and thin, so you run up and down stairs a bit. I'm actually not fit. And look, when I've got to do something, I try to do it. But otherwise, I like to walk about briskly. And there we are.
Do you have a doggy or anything? Any pets?
No, we've got 2 cats.
Oh, so you don't really go running or anything like that?
Yeah.
No.
No. I've got people to do running for me.
Jonathan asks, will you ever be doing another sitcom at all?
I don't know. I think sitcoms are really hard. I thought Ab Fab was fabulous. It was 30 minutes long on the BBC, and it went, I don't know how many series it ran to, or episodes, because Jennifer was very sporadic about writing it. She'd write it sometimes, leave it sometimes. I don't think I'll be in another sitcom. I can't think how, unless it's with Jennifer.
Jill asks, hello Joanna,
hello,
have you
Jill.
any plans to visit the Okavango Delta in Botswana if you have not already been? It's one of the most special places on earth and I'd love to see it again through your eyes. Are you going to do more travel shows?
Yes, I am. And
Where are you going next? Can you tell us?
Yes, I think so. At the end of this year, we're due to go on something which has been cancelled twice, which is following the spice route from the Banda Islands, which are just near New Guinea, all across Indonesia, across to Singapore, then down to Sri Lanka, then down to Mauritius, down to Zanzibar, up through the Red Sea, Jordan, and then to Egypt.
And
following the spices.
How long will that take to film?
September to Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, big. But we do it in 4 chunks because you can't do it all in one go. And it's, for me, magic. This is music to my ears. Because I've just done 3 episodes of something which is thrilling, which is great cities, Paris, Rome and Berlin, which are just about to come out in March, which I adored. And fascinating, and I think they're darling programmes. But behind me, I've got a knapsack, and in front of me a white road winding, you know.
And when you're filming these things, how many kind of luxuries and home comforts are there for a star like you, or how often are you actually having to slum it?
Well, not star, because there's only really 6 of us travelling, 6 and me, so we do everything, so we help with whatever. Depending on where we are, sometimes you're in a tent, in which case I always do my own makeup and hair. I have to provide my own clothes and see that they're in order, and do that side of it. Mug up on what there's no starriness about it. I couldn't bear it.
No.
I actually can't bear these. Can I just say something to people at home? Cushions are all very well, but they have a way of making you frantically uncomfortable.
You move those cushions. You can
no,
sit,
I'm better now.
It looks like it's a bit too.
Do you know sometimes they rack them up and you go, what are all these cushions here? You throw them all on the ground.
But doesn't your husband say that about cushions generally? What's the point in them?
He doesn't notice a cushion. He's too musical.
So, oh, that was a question as well. What do you prefer, sort of the travel shows and the documentary
I
making?
love those, I love those, I love
or the
those.
acting? I mean, is it hard learning scripts?
No, acting is heaven. Acting good stuff is heaven. First thing you've got to do is look at the script. No good film has been made without a good script. So that's the first thing. So writers who ought to be at the top of everything are always sort of shuffled away and people can't remember who wrote things. Jennifer Saunders wrote absolutely fabulous, brilliant. Then you want a good director and you want good co-actors. And once they're good co-actors, you're flying.
Yes.
But Stephen said this about conducting good orchestras. He said sometimes when it takes off, you're flying. You literally, something happens. It's called making music and it flies. Yeah. It's flying and it's thrilling. So that's what you want.
Somebody's asking, do you have a favourite destination?
It's hard. I fall in love like a flighty girl with every last place you've been to. And so from the Northern Lights to Japan, to Mongolia, to Uzbekistan, where I lost my heart, Kyrgyzstan, and saw the most extraordinary sort of edges going towards China and these great Tashrabat, a weird place where nobody's ever counted how many weird little cell rooms it's got because it's haunted. And it's either 32 or 31. Nobody's ever found out the right number of rooms. No, this is the stuff. This is the stuff for me. Anyway, now I'm obviously going to fall in love with the Banda Islands.
Yes. Fabulous. This is an interesting question. Was your convent education an asset? Nuns lead shelters' lives, so were they good life tutors?
Yes, they were. I went to an Anglican convent, and there were only ever 4 in England. I don't think there are any now. And the nuns were what we would call blue stockings, which doesn't mean they wore blue stockings, but they were brainy. They were teaching nuns. And so they taught the classics. They taught Greek and Latin and French and chemistry and physics and biology. They were brainy, brainy nuns. Incredibly tolerant, very sweet, didn't try to make us into holy people, failed, were tolerant of me because I did languages and Latin and things like this up to A-level. And so they didn't sack me for smoking, although they did take away my prefect's badge.
What kind of child were you at school? Were you an extrovert, an introvert?
I've always been a show-off and pretty unbearable, I would have thought. Happy as a lark, unbearably happy and laughing. Anthea and I, my friend from school, still a friend now to this day, used to sit at the back of the class and we used to cut round people's heads in photographs. So you just got their ears and then you'd cut their eyebrows off round here. So they just had a face hanging off the bottom. It sounds pathetic. I can't remember laughing so much. You used to put your head in your skirt and just cry. I loved those days.
But you boarded from quite a young age. Was that
I was 8.
Tolerable?
No, boarding... You never really... I loved my second school. I loved the convent. I adored it. I couldn't wait to go back. I just loved it because I was quite cheeky and it was so full of everything. It had friends and it was a magic place. I was 8 when I first boarded in England and I'd only just come back from the Far East. And I think what I missed was the Far East.
Yes.
As well as my parents. I was homesick for Malaya, which is where I'd just come from, Malaysia as it is now, and the laterite and the white moonflowers at night and the sound of the tok-tok bird and the smell of spices, all that in a thin little English iron bed, and didn't like it.
No, sounds dreadful.
It was fine.
And when you didn't get into drama school and went to Lucy Clayton instead, was that a massive blow?
I was so touched. Then I saw Anthony Sher didn't get into RADA. Most people didn't get into RADA. I mean, the people who did went into RADA, or they went to Lambda or went to Central School or whatever. No, being the door slammed in your face. But there was a very... it was just the time when, I didn't know I had an accent. Because I think I spoke rather like that.
Did you? A little bit like the Queen, actually.
Could have done. And I did a piece from Joan of Arc. And I said, "Oh, Dauphin, I'm locked down in this jail." I think I did this, and this was my audition piece. And they turned me down. I thought, oh God, this is awful. I'm clearly wrong. But I can't think, if I go to somewhere else and they turn me down, if 4 or 5 places turn me down, I'll have to not be an actress. And I'm going to be an actress, so why don't I just not do it at all and just dodge my way through? There's bound to, at the back of the building, be a window open, and I'll get into it that way. So I've done everything through the back door.
Yes.
Just get in, learn it, and they go, "What have you done recently?" And you go, "Oh, I've done some films which haven't come out yet." I'd lie.
Yes.
Just get there, get in there.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Watch, learn, cheat, steal, borrow from other people. Make it, do it yourself. It isn't going to be handed to you. You know that.
We all know that.
No, we don't.
Well,
most
of us do. Telegraph readers do, of course they do. On the elocution front, did you then have to... Did you have any elocution lessons to now speak like this if you were high-pitched in the old days?
No, I've just smoked more and more and more. And,
right.
And no, gradually, I've just gradually... You realise that there's some... You realise... I think you just live and you get old. And you just get older. I don't know, I think even when you hear my earlier voice, I think we all moderate our voices to how language is. The Queen, if you hear her then, making that vow, I vow to, you know, for the rest of my life, be it long or short, that little voice is very different from the way the Queen speaks now. So her voice has got lower and more open and rounded.
But I think she did have elocution.
Well, I didn't, because I'm an actress and I'm a copycat, so I can do whatever I have to.
What's your favourite accent to do?
Oh, I think I like very much to do French because I knew some French people and I knew one who spoke exactly as I'm speaking now. She'd taken some of the vowel sounds to heart and it was very impressive.
Très bien.
Merci.
This is a nice one from, anonymous again, put your names on it. Let's just say it's from Fred. Silly question, but I've always really wanted to know this. Were the cigarettes that were smoked on Ab Fab real or were they herbal or stage?
No, they were real. And they would have boxes and boxes and boxes of them around. And you'd, during a shoot, during a take, you have to go back and then the cigarette by that time has gone down to that. So you have to get another cigarette, which is that long again. So there was a lot of lighting up of cigarettes. And actually after shooting, because we only did one show a week, which was on Friday evening, I wouldn't smoke on Saturday. But then, you smoke again. Most firemen smoke, did you know that?
How ironic.
Isn't it odd? I love bonfires too.
Smoking's
I stand in the smoke. I love it.
It's less popular than it used to be.
No, but it's primeval. We all used to live in caves and have a bonfire going. We inhaled the smoke. We're mostly made of smoke.
This is an interesting one from Mike. Would Joanna agree that the future of the monarchy is in safe hands with Charles and Camilla, followed by William and Kate?
I would say so. I think Prince Charles has been the most remarkable Prince of Wales ever on record. He was so ahead of it. Everything he did has been completely admirable. From the setting up of the Prince's Trust, which caught all the young and the dispossessed who had slipped through all the other people's nets, never failing them, giving them mentorship, taking care of them, to his husbandry of the earth and his passion for crafts, weaving and carving and sewing and drawing and the fine arts and architecture and everything. He's been quite extraordinary. I think he's a remarkable man. And the Queen has trained him. It said one of the things, she said, I've trained up a good man because he's going to be king. And she knows what it's like to carry on her little shoulders all this. All of this is going to come, good or bad. And people say, oh, but shouldn't they hop the thing? It isn't a beauty contest. It isn't a popularity contest. It's the monarchy. And until we get rid of it, we've got it. So we follow what it does. Shouldn't the Queen retire? No, she won't retire. She's made a vow. Wake up, people. She's made the vow.
Yes, I agree with you entirely. I think talk of abdications just for the birds. We just look at the timer, 1 minute and 15.
Ooh,
quick one.
That's my fringe is getting even longer.
No,
look at
your
it.
fringe is fine.
Okay,
it's looking good.
Okay.
Mary, who was your first celebrity crush?
Dirk Bogarde. I thought I looked like him.
And I'm trying to find a very quick one before I last this next one. We've done that. Okay, this is the best one, I think, to end on. If I can now bloody well find it. When you look back on your life, what is the most important value or thing you learnt and the least important?
The least important is sort of what you look like.
Yes.
The most important is being kind. That's all. And that comes from the Dalai Lama, who I admire hugely and who I've met, who never stops laughing. And he's incredibly kind. And he just said, all religion is kindness. That's all it is. Kindness is religion. Religion is kindness. And that's all. That's the end of it. That'll see you through.
Right, on that bombshell, I think we should end it there because that's such a positive note. You're such a glass half full, joyous woman to be with. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this last hour.
Thank you,
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Telegraph subscribers for subscribing to the newspaper, continuing to read and support us, and also to accessing these brilliant Telegraph extra events because they're kind of like the cherry and the cream on top of what we offer at the Telegraph. Let me just do a little bit of housekeeping to end. So, if you weren't fast enough, I think we gave 100 books away to subscribers that wanted one of your books for free. However, they are available at all good retailers and, of course, the Telegraph bookshop. I needed to say that. Please do also keep an eye on Telegraph Extra, the website, which will give you information on all of the future events that we're doing. And don't forget as well that you're going to get priority access to the Grange Park Opera's amazing summer schedule of events.
Yeah.
And as Joanna said, that's brilliant. And I think you've got until March the 8th to book those tickets with priority over the rest of the country. So that's not a bad thing. Thank you very much to Dame Joanna Lumley for joining me. Thank you to you for joining me, and have a very lovely evening.